Hey everyone, my name is Dan, and I work here at the CO, your local entrepreneur development center, along with Dev Catalyst. And
I am Tai Wong. I was a participant in Dev Catalyst, but I'm now studying computer science at Morehouse College.
Great. So today we are going to talk about interviews, not the TV interview, but a job interview.
Yes.
Something that should be coming up in your future very soon. And so we're going to get right into it and basically just talk to you about a lot of things that happen during a job interview. So first thing is general things to prepare for an interview. And, more specifically to the field that you guys are probably going to be interviewing for, which is coding. So, Tai Wong, how did you do initial research for the job interview that you knew you had coming up? What did you do?
My first interview ever was actually like a Google interview. I did it in my freshman year. And really for preparedness, you have to do some coding problems. Cracking the Coding Interview is a great book. You should look into it. It actually has the great problems you can solve, and it gets you prepared. You can also do problems online, like websites like HackerRank and LeetCode, and those are very helpful for you.
Great. So there's resources out there that let you prepare and redo over and over again until you feel proficient in this coding application that you might be asked in this interview.
Right.
I guess, so my next question is, did you end up asking the recruiter what you might need to bring or have prepared for the interview? Or did you just already know?
Yeah, so you definitely want to ask and reiterate to your recruiter, what do you need to bring? Usually they'll maybe send you an email or a message telling you what is necessary, but just a general list, heads up, is you need to have some good attire. Nothing like this. Definitely come in with a suit or at least a business casual dress shirt, and you also want to make sure that maybe even notebook and piece of paper, because you never know if you'll have to write things down, and it'd be always useful to have that.
I actually have a kind of a fun story about dressing for the interview. Back in college, I applied for a job at a restaurant, and I was just going to be a dish boy, nothing fancy. Mm-hmm. But for my interview, I dressed up in a full suit and tie. Mm-hmm. And I get a call after the interview. I get a call back from the manager of the restaurant, and he's like, you know what? I just gave you a promotion. I'm like, I haven't even started. He's like, believe it or not, out of the 20-some kids I interviewed today, you were the only person that dressed up. And so, guys, good things happen when you look the part and you look like you care and you look presentable. That promotion ended up making me a ton more money because he gave me that opportunity, because he saw that I cared and he appreciated that. So, dress the part. Next question for you, Tai Wong, is what was the interview like? Was it scary? What did you have to do?
Definitely the first iteration, I got those jitterbugs, I'm like, I don't know about this interview. But the interview started out with the technical interview, so probably 45 minutes, not too long, maybe an hour.
That was the first interview?
Yes, 45-minute interview.
Woo!
You're doing coding questions. They might start out asking you to review some code.
So they got right to the point.
Yes.
So I know some places they'll do a quick interview, like 30 minutes tops, just to see if you're not crazy. And then they jump. The next interview is more of a technical based one. But it sounds like with the big guys like Google, Twilio, they get right to it because they're probably interviewing a lot of people.
Yes.
So that's good to know. Okay. What was the coding assessment like?
Yeah, the coding assessment will come before your first interview. And usually what that is you'll have maybe a 2-hour long that usually takes type of assessment. And usually what that is they'll have maybe 3 questions, and they'll be pretty long questions.
Wow.
And you'll have to maybe solve and write some code to do a problems. And you also have to usually explain how you solved it and your reasoning behind it.
Oh, brings back memories of math class.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So I guess, why did you answer in the ways that you did? I guess, what was your thought process when you were explaining this? Did you want to show off a particular side of your skill set, or were you just trying to answer it straight as can be and not venture in those other kind of creative areas?
Yeah, my thought process always going into doing these coding assessment or interview problems is that you should first start out with a solution that you think works, and that it could be the easiest solution, it could be a very badly written code, but at least it works. Then you want to think about, how can I optimize this? If you can't do it immediately, then just write it out in a comment or in a little message that the recruiter or interviewer can see, so that they're like, hey, okay, they didn't quite get the best solution, or they didn't get the solution at the time that they were given, but it looks like they knew what to do, and that's what's important. And sometimes that's the extra little kick that'll get you there.
Yeah, exactly. So, say you don't really know the answer, but if you can show how you would get closer to knowing the answer, that goes a long way too. Okay, besides the technical aspect of an interview, there's some other things that you need to be aware of, and that goes right back to another video that we've made called Soft Skills.
Yeah.
You need to present yourself in a really positive, professional manner, and some of those things might be...
Yeah, soft skills include being able to easily just come in and shake hands, remembering to shake someone's hand when you walk in the room, being like, hey, my name's Taiwan Nance, and I'm pleasure to meet you. It's being able to greet yourself and being able to also articulate what you're doing. When you're in that interview, you're not a robot moving around. You're someone who's a person writing code. So when you're writing it, also be like, hey, I'm writing this for loop because I think we need to iterate over X, Y, and Z.
That's and when you're in front of people too, there's a chance you might be in front of a manager or a director of some department for this company you're interviewing for.
Yeah.
They're going to ask you about your previous work experiences, and I highly encourage you to, regardless of how much you hated that position, talk positively about it, and talk positively about your previous manager and your coworkers. You do not want to seem like you're nagging and negative. This is not the time to vent. This is the time to talk about what you learned and why it was a great experience to have that sets you up for this position that you're interviewing for. So definitely be positive in these interviews.
Yes.
And also just, talk professionally about your experiences. Beforehand, you should know the position you're applying for, and maybe think of ways to talk about how your concession stand experience is relatable to coding. There's always ways to make connections, you guys, and so carve out some time and think about what experience is applicable. Maybe it was dealing with customers, right? You were at a concession stand, but you had to take money, you had to engage with people. You're going to have to do that when you work on a team with other developers. And so say, hey, I learned this skill from this position, and I'm going to be great at this position that I'm applying for. There's a lot of things that can be transferred, from whether the job is related or not. Of course, Taiwan mentioned dress appropriately, and okay, now we're in the time of virtual interviews, right? Sometimes you're not in person, and so Zoom interviews.
Yes. These Zoom interviews obviously a lot different. So obviously you want to make sure you have your camera on. You want to have the best quality camera you can have, because we all know the latency issues and all of that can be really bad. So first things first. You also want to make sure that your microphone's good, you're speaking clearly. You want to make sure that they can see your face. In this portion, it's not really important to get those body shots. It's important that they can just see you and that you're speaking clearly, and that you're also every now and then, maybe every 5 minutes, you're like, hey, can you hear me, just to make sure that audio's good, everything's working well.
And two, the background, what's behind you in your environment is super important.
Yes.
Make sure it's clean, make sure it's picked up. And if you can't control that, I believe there's virtual backgrounds that kind of overlay over your real background. Just test that ahead of time, make sure it works, make sure you don't look goofy or have a cat filter on your face. It has happened, I promise you. So I guess going into another side of maybe you're nervous for an interview because you don't feel confident that your experiences have led you to be a good fit for this role. What are some things that you can do to beef up your resume? Some of the things we've got listed here, especially for you guys as coding students, is participate in hackathons. If you don't know what a hackathon is, it's
basically experience where you sit in a room or a building for maybe at least 12 hours and you're just coding out, hammering code, solving a problem. And you're working with people you probably don't even know. So that's a great experience actually to get kind of that on the job kind of experience. So
and maybe the hackathons don't happen in the area that you're in. But there's ways to get involved. I think a lot of employers understand that if you're in college, maybe you haven't had the time, you're not old enough to have the experiences that they have. But at least if you can show that some initiative, get involved with extracurricular activities. Maybe you went above and beyond a school project that required you to do some things, and you added a little bit of coding to that project. That goes so far for them understanding what you're going to be like as an employee, and maybe this is your first job, and so initiative is huge. And I said earlier on, if you don't have experiences, that's okay. right? But you got to be able to talk about the experiences you have had in your life and maybe how it's prepared you for the job you're interviewing for.
Yeah, and maybe your technical interview side isn't so great, but you also usually have a behavioral side.
Oh, yeah.
So go ahead and shine and show your true self in that, because you never know what can arise. So yeah.
Well, guys, hopefully these tips and tricks will help you in your first interview, your second interview, and land you that job. But if not, use us here at Dev Catalyst as your resource, and we'll be happy to help you in any way we can.
You got this.